When we were deciding what process to undertake, we looked at the options of identifying vines with disease and only doing the remedial surgery on those. Because of the level of infection that we had, we decided we were much better off to do a complete reset of the block, to have all vines the same. Otherwise you would end up with a mature cordon system and an immature system in the same block, and you're introducing variability. The same reason for not trying to chase individual arms, a vine structure that won't unwind off the wire, so you're having to insert a new piece of cordon wire, as opposed to doing it again, a total reset, cut all the vines off, bring them all back up so you've got a uniform vineyard, fresh cordon wire, relatively young vineyard going forward into the future. The first thing to assess is, do you have the right variety in the right place? That's probably the biggest question to ask yourself. Only if you can tick both of those boxes would you then say, okay, it's worth reinvesting in this asset. And that's really what it is. If you've got a 15 to 20 year old vineyard that's on the decline, it's about understanding that that asset needs to be reinvested in to prolong its life. In the process of deciding to go ahead with the broad scale reconstruction, we'd done a lot of survey work around the vineyard where we'd scored each vineyard on how much infection there was and how severe it was. They were all pretty bad, so what that gave us was the priority listing, which ones to do first. We decided to do all the vineyards of that age over that 7-year period. Giving us the survey just gave us an idea of where to start. What was the most urgent, what was the most important block to start with? I don't think there is a magic number in terms of what percentage of infection is your threshold before you need to go and rework. That's very much a business by business decision. But I'd suggest that if you do surveying, give your block a number, a percentage if you like. You can monitor that over time. 2 years later you can do your survey again and actually know, is it worse or better? Or not so much better, but how worse is it getting, how quickly, to help steer your decision making about when to do the restructuring, when to reset the vineyard. Shiraz has been our focus in this first period. We've also got large areas of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot planted at the same period of time, suffering similar infection levels. So at the moment we're 2 years into a commercial scale trial of about 1 hectare of each of those two varieties, and the coming vintage or two will give us some real yield response information so that we can understand if that's a worthwhile investment for those two varieties or not. So that's still very much a work in progress for us. We're only looking at an 85% success after going into the 3rd year. So the jury's still out on whether that's enough to justify doing the restructuring, or whether that might mean we need to actually re-establish those blocks, pull them out and replant.
When it comes to making a decision about reworking your vineyard, there's a couple of things to consider. And from my own personal experience, I had 2 blocks to rework. One was quite a high-valued Cabernet, the other one was a medium to high-valued Shiraz. And what we did, we went out and actually looked at the amount of Eutypa that was there, how much infection was in each block. And we looked at the income that we were getting from those blocks. Now, with the high-valued Cabernet, there was only an odd vine here and there, so we decided to take just an individual vine approach and go through and cut those vines up individually and actually rejoin the cordon wires with crimp joiners and then retrain the vine up again. Now the Shiraz block was quite badly affected. There was quite a high incidence there, and it was quite badly affected. So there we took the whole row approach and said, right, okay, we're going to cut off whole rows and rework them that way. And really, you need to go out and do some sort of monitoring just to see how bad or how big your incidents there are there, and then you make your decisions from that. But also keep in mind the end value of the crop and how much you're going to cut your return down by reworking. But in the longer term, you must rework, because that disease is slowly creeping from where it was infected down to the roots, and it will eventually kill your whole vine. And you may have a couple of good years where the weather's right and everything's right and you produce good crops, and then reality will hit on that first bad year and you'll find you'll have no income at all. So prevention is better than cure.